Preparing to stream the leaving. Interesting. I'm not sure if this is currently on yet or not, but I feel like. Do you see anything on your side that it looks like we're live?
I hit an OK on something.
It does say Weston Hurt is live now. I just want to make sure that, like...
Oh, let me go into your page.
Yeah. It's oh, here we go. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, you're live, bro.
Okay.
Oh, a sip. The sip of the spindrift was the beginning.
It's delayed, so it's great if you mute anything on your end, but I think we're good. And if you want to share that to your page, that'd be cool, so we get a little bit more audience.
Shared.
So, welcome, everyone, for this Tuesday at 2 Central and 3 p.m. Eastern on Under the Hood, Season 3, with my new bro, my bestie, Ben Gulley. Thanks so much.
Cue the sound effects.
Boom. Oh, wait, don't you have a keyboard right in front of you?
Oh, that's right, I do. That's cool. Yeah, I give myself a little Puccini 5-1.
Yeah, you can be our Paul Schaefer for the evening. So it'll be great.
Yeah, I don't have any sunglasses near. Yeah.
Well, again, seriously, thank you for being on.
Man.
We recently had the opportunity to. Well, we had met one other time before, but we recently got to work together.
That's right. We met, didn't we? Wasn't our original maiden voyage in the bowels of the Kaufman Center for... You were costumed and hugged me in makeup, I believe.
Yeah, I think
I was in a tuxedo and going to the other hall, and we literally were like, tag.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, bro.
That's it. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's very cool. But I'm so glad that we finally got to work together. We got to do Pagliacci together at Pensacola.
Oh, our debuts. Unforgettable.
Roll debuts, house debuts. Yeah, it was awesome. I think back on that time so long ago. And
a whole 7 days. Not even a fortnight.
Not to quote Taylor Swift, we got Taylor Swift already on.
Oh, Queen.
Amazing.
Is she?
To my family, she is. I mean, my daughter, I think, holds her in such high esteem. I'm not sure that there is anybody else. You know, well, Sabrina Carpenter is up there as well in her mind, but
she'll find Caruso or Pavarotti one of these days.
Perchance. Who knows? We'll have to. Remains to be seen.
I know. I lose hope every day.
So, some of the things that we like to discuss here on Under the Hood are sort of like how you got started. And the cool thing about this discussion is going to be the variety of different, genres of music, but also just sort of like focuses and like interests that you could equally have a full career within, in my opinion. But yeah, so we like to talk a little bit about how you got started, of course, but like through the course of your career, what are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the challenges that you faced where you were like, oh, wait, what am I doing? How do you get past that? Because I think oftentimes, and I always sort of make these in mind for like the next generation that's coming up. They watch this and they see two established professionals, but they might wonder or be surprised by, or then feel much more comfortable knowing that, yeah, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody accidentally sings things that are too big too soon, or too light too soon, or whatever it might be. And then we find ourselves, with help from others, figuring out how to navigate through that and on the other side. So how did you first...
I run with the analogy of the name of your show. That's why I dig it, the Under the Hood. It's like, everybody sees the car, they come see the show, they buy the ticket, they blah, blah, blah. Really, how does the engine really hum? Yeah. So I appreciate the metaphor or the
as
analogy,
well as
sure.
I mean, and it can be with anything, right? Like it can be, oh, whoops, that particular, and we don't have to name names or anything, of course, but that particular teacher didn't.
What? There's trauma in this career? What are you talking about?
maybe for some, I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, or technical things, whatever it may be.
For sure.
So when did you first figure out that you were a singer?
Oh, that's adorable. Like, my cheesy answer is like Mom would say, always. So I think I was always musical. Like, I was always humming. But I was like, like you were, like it wasn't, I had no inclination that was gonna be the primary like passion and like way I express my art in life is through sound waves that are
Right.
channeled through the human body. I never would have. I would have laughed at anybody's face. No, I'm a little Midwestern boy. Grew up singing in the church. Honestly, that's when I really have to think. Like back, when was the first time like I sang, closed my eyes and sang like outside of myself, which is like what I think. Not to get on a soapbox immediately, but like that's the power of church music. So many of our friends and musicians come from singing in the church first. And I think besides whatever spiritual adage or bonus or aspect of worship, technically you're learning to sing bigger than yourself. You're learning to sing out maybe for the first time when otherwise, why do we ever get outside of our bodies? So
Right.
I have started paying attention to that more and more because I think that's something in the sauce for most of us, especially in North America. We all sing in church first, sing a little louder, maybe got in the choir, sing a little louder before
sing a
you
little
finally
softer.
go. Yeah, oh, exactly. That's the joke about a lot of. I mean, Ryan Board, he was a grad student. So my best friend Scott Connor, and you know Scotty, your roster mates. He and I met in college and became best friends like immediately. And we were the first two freshmen. So to run with your question, started singing in church, sang like wanted to be a nerd. Still am a nerd, always am a nerd. Chemistry fascinated me, physics fascinated me. I loved sports, but singing and music was kind of it. I played tuba starting, played piano by ear, picked up a guitar,
Wait,
started
when did you start
Gulley.
playing tuba?
You can blame the American education system. 6th grade is when I picked up.
And was that your
is
choice?
sat
You were
down in
like,
the
I know
chair.
which one I'm gonna, because I played trumpet starting in
Yeah.
sixth grade.
Dude, do you remember? Do they even do this? I hope they do. And shame on us if we don't. What was it? The instrument zoos? Do you remember this? Like they would take before you go to middle school. They'd come around and you go into the gym with your folks.
Yeah.
And I remember my sister played the flute. She was a beautiful flautist. And I was so hooked on the tuba. There was just something, but always being a big guy too. But I was just like, yep, I'm going to play that one. And fell in love with it.
I remember I tried to play the French horn, but my arm wouldn't fit all the way
Oh,
into the horn. I just thought,
Right.
well, this would be a great place for my arm to lie, right there in the
Oh,
corner.
that's amazing, right?
that was-
I never even thought about that. Oh, man.
have the wingspan.
Dude, that's also a beast of an instrument.
I know, right?
Aren't they the ones, like, legitimately, isn't there there's health concerns with how long you play and how hard you play the French horn? Isn't there something like blood pressure and something? I remember reading an article about this. Like, I think it's one of those instruments where, like, the most risk is absorbed by the French horn player because they're exerting so much blood pressure.
Anxiety levels, right? I mean,
Oh, right. Yeah, don't blurp on that. Don't flurp on that one. Don't flare out on that. Yeah, exactly. I know. Is that maybe not the most unforgiving instrument of the orchestra? If you have a little, whoops, I'm a human moment.
yeah. There's a little,
yeah.
and they always seem to be the most exposed, right? Like, I should get a French horn person on.
Oh, right. Yeah, everybody else just goes silent, and it's like, time for the horn solo. Yeah, no pressure.
Right.
Oh, man, I think
so,
I was
so you
getting...
were playing tuba starting in sixth grade.
Playing tuba. And got into it later. And Scott had been studying opera early. He had a teacher that was at the conservatory in Kansas City that hooked Scotty. And we met freshman year singing bass in the choir. So yet again, you never know what you are where you come from.
You and Scott were both singing bass.
I met Scott Connor. We were both singing bass too. We were the first freshmen who ever got into Heritage Chorale. Back when that was
choir at
that was the top. That was E. Feely's big honors choir, which was almost like 90% graduate and doctoral students.
Right.
So
men are
wide-eyed
always
little
a
us,
little
like,
bit-
oh, we were both like, what, like rabbits at the slaughter? Like, oh my gosh, what is happening? But honestly, because of that our friends, our section mates became best of friends. The John Crinkies, the Jill Scrapers, the Jill Diffendaffers, former members of Chanticleer, blah blah blah, literally pulled us up by our bootstraps and said, "No,
amazing.
This is how music works." So Scott and I, we probably got our own education's worth just by singing next to those cats.
Sure.
At that level, but yeah, we both accelerated, and we lived together our entire undergraduate career. So Scott and I when I got bit by the opera bug, it was opera every day, all day.
Did you go into UMKC as a freshman knowing that you were going to be a vocal performance major?
No, I wanted to do everything. It was more, I didn't know if it was going to be an academic route in chemistry. I didn't know if it was going to be in music. I didn't know if it was going to be in education. I didn't know. So looking back without getting too political, it was one of those I felt kind of steered, which is maybe the job of academia.
Sure.
But it wasn't until I met Michael Cousins, who was in the voice faculty before I got with Dale Morehouse, and then Dale was really the mentor that went, Ben, with my musical ADD, and said, "Don't conform to anything. Be this musical creature that you are," which is what I liken back to, like, that he was really the steer of what you mentioned earlier, of kind of all the avenues of music. Dale was the mentor that let me really understand and integrate that it's all the same 12 notes, whether it's gospel music, hip hop, Broadway, Puccini, oratorio, duende. It's all the same 12 notes we're using around the planet. Yes, there's more notes, there's microtones and all that stuff, but most in diatonic music, John Denver to the most amazing Verdi bum 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 is the same 12 notes, and I've always seen it that way. And academia doesn't want you to think that way a lot of the time. I'm going to say that out loud. I will push back. They're teaching that it is, but they're going to tell you need to just focus on one, which you do to a degree. You do.
Sure. I do think that, well, let me ask you this. When in your academic career did you end up meeting with Dale and then getting guided towards that path?
Yes, Dale came. So Michael was retiring. That was 2006, I want to say, was the first year. I was doing music theater. I had just played Horton in Seussical the Musical, Theater in the Park. I swallowed a June bug in the middle of the show. Is my favorite memory of that, because it's a big outdoor theater. So I was a little chubby Midwestern boy, and I was playing Horton that summer. And then Dale, I remember his audition for the faculty, and then that would have been sophomore into junior year, where he came, and not only is he a great baritone, but he also is a fantastic organist and pianist and can play. And so everything wasn't off limits. It wasn't just the 24 Italian. It was all of it. And I think that was kind of the magic too. And as a songwriter, I would come in sometimes and I'd share little stuff. And he's a songwriter, and I do his music. And he always encouraged me to kind of get out into the scene. So I started doing theater in Kansas City, but the whole time was also a music minister, playing guitar on Sunday and singing.
Minister at a church as like
First Presbyterian and then Second Presbyterian, and then I hopped around a few different places. I'd sing in the octet at Unity downtown at the Temple.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, you're getting challenged to sight read on the spot. You know, you'd come around. There were some. I'm not kidding. There were some years, maybe sophomore, junior, before I really got into the circuit of like performing and doing my own music and got into some bigger projects. I remember there were some Sundays in Kansas City where if you did the earlier mass for the Catholic Church, you get done with that, you could run out and pick up like 3 or 4 more church services before like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and you'd have maybe the pocketed like $500, $600 a Sunday.
Wow.
Which just sight reading and singing some music, which what you're already doing during the week. And so there's a hustle. I'm not being blasphemous, but there is a hustle to how hard you can work with making music, especially today.
And along the way, you're building an incredible skill set of like sight reading, like you said, and
nailed it.
Musicianship skills and becoming a great colleague and learning how to work with and learning how other conductors work with different ensembles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of an incredible life.
Well, to really go in the weeds, like what you and I giggle at too, is like I got drunk on the function of music. Once I understood the language, it's like any language. Once you start speaking Italian where you're like, oh, capisco, I capito, I get everything. You start understanding it. You hear the world that way.
Right.
And so once I started understanding what I so intrinsically, like in a churchy way, had this love of music and how it worked and what it could do, I sound so, you know me already, brother. I'm so trite. It makes me teary-eyed. I call music the last magic because it calms the beast. I don't know any other, besides math, which some people on the Pythagorean side would say music is math.
Yeah.
And there are stocks and aside that it's the symphony of the spheres. I think it's a marriage of both in my 2025 lens. So, without mixing up too much.
No, it's a beautiful way to think about it. And I think that, while it can open up so many, it can also transcend, right? So it's like, to your to your adjective, this magic idea, it's like it really does sort of provide something that very few other things do provide. And I think that's why you have people, whether you're an amateur or a seasoned professional, at the end of the day, we're all coming together to make music together,
Yes. Yeah, and I gotta say, I've always been a black sheep. Like, I've always fit in. I've always, was always at the table. I never was not invited anywhere in high school. I had a great upbringing, but I was a 550-pound guy at my biggest too. So you have to remember Ben 200 pounds ago, a little thicker necked even. That was me, a little more wide-eyed, celebratory, going through the world even. So,
Right. Oh, my buddy.
It speaks to the fact that you do kind of have to streamline some things in sometimes. But yeah, that lifestyle was a different. It seems like a world ago, but it's wild to look back.
My buddy Brian says that I need to turn my mic up a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna pull this up a little bit. Brian, let me know
there you are, baritone.
If that's better.
Yeah.
Sorry about that for anybody that might have missed out on anything. Anyway, all right, so as we move forward to this, did you end up graduating from UMKC as an undergrad with a Bachelor of Music and Vocal Performance?
Yeah, I did, and then I went into the performance certificate program, the master's with the Lyric Opera Kansas City.
Oh, right.
They used to have a joint program. Yeah, we think you remember it back in the day. It was KU and UMKC had a joint. I don't know if it became a resident artist program. Is that right?
Well, from what I remember when I made my Lyric Opera Kansas City debut as Sharpless and Madame Butterfly in 2012, there was an octet. There was a quartet from KU and a quartet from UMKC.
That's how it was when I was there, yeah.
Eventually, it's kind of shifted and changed. I think there's been a variety of different iterations until now.
Lots of regime changes, yeah. The big flow of what's the term my wife has taught me, churn in the arts. There was a lot of churn in Kansas City at the time. Yeah.
I think now it's sort of like they have, they hear people from all different, William Jewell, KU, UMKC, wherever, and they select people that they want to be in it. And there is a resident artist program, and then there is a young artist program.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that the young artist program are the ones who are still in school, and they help subsidize part of their tuition, perhaps. And I think the resident artists are just there all the time, covering lead roles and singing supporting roles and things like that.
Nice. Yeah,
so it's kind of shifted a little bit.
In my time, oh my gosh, 14 years ago, that's wild to think about. Yeah, it was what you said. It was both. So they had divided it into a resident thing. It was you were both in school and you were a full-time AGMA artist at the Lyric and performing at the nursing homes all the time. So
of course.
In hindsight, I remind all those young bloods, do not complain about all those mornings you get to sing your arias for those lovely audience of the elderly, because eventually you're going to be paying a lot of money to go do that in New York City or some of these other towns to maybe sing one or two songs and then go back home.
Getting your repertoire out in front of people, no matter what their ages are, is always a helpful thing, and you can find that sort of nuanced performance. I mean, if there's an audience, do it, right?
Yep.
So after you finished your undergrad, you stayed at UMKC for your master's degree as well, or did you go elsewhere?
No, so I did the American Tenors.
There you go.
So wild. Yeah, man. So musical ADD, Journeys. So I had done Stephen Schwartz of Wicked fame. I had been, they had turned it into a Broadway musical, Geppetto and Son, and I had picked up and stepped in the role
they turned Wicked into, they turned
No,
Pinocchio.
Geppetto and Son, they turned the TV movie that had Drew Carey and Brett Spiner.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
And Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It was an NBC. Remember when they used to do the big specials, the family specials on the main network?
Yeah. Okay.
So they took this. David Stern wrote the book. They wrote that and turned it into a Broadway musical. And so I did that. Got some steam rolling. Crazy, beautiful drama with that story. Had to be cut short and changed the name. It's called Geppetto's Son or something like that now. And they had to take some of the songs out. For copyright, and do your homework, friends, get a good lawyer. But fortunately I came back and went on tour with the American Tenors with my buddy Nathan Granner and Daniel Montenegro, who's another buddy of, and Nathan is a fellow Kansas City boy. So, dude, as you and I talked about that singing down in Pensacola, life comes full circle in so many ways. I remember watching the American Tenors PBS special at the Kodak Center with my parents in the living room when I was in high school and saying, oh, I would love to do something like that one day. And that was my introduction to Nathan and Daniel and Mauricio, the other tenor at the time.
Oh, yeah,
that was my introduction, was
Mauricio.
watching it on TV while they're at the Kodak Center and be like, oh, I'd love to do that one day.
Wow.
So this is that, yet again, of having mentors like yourself and other people, the Del Morris of the world, that say, dream your dreams and be what you want to be. Because 5 years later, babies, I was joining the American Tenors and touring all over the country and singing with Nathan Granner and making stories and meeting two of the best voices of our generation. I'm biased, but when people experience Nathan and when they meet Danny, he's one of the best people. That the voice is so sweet. He's got a dolce to his voice.
Love that
matches. Anyway, I'm gossiping now, but I love. Yeah, so they're such great guys, and we got to sing the American Songbook and meet America. I know that sounds so silly and controversial in 2025 to say a phrase.
Was it like a 9-month tour or a 12-month tour?
Oh, bro, some of them were year long. One was year long.
Oh wow.
That we were on tour buses and RVs for, and actually that was the connection. I think you've got some family down in Texas. We used to go get our.
I'm from Texas, yeah.
Yeah, we used to go get our big tour buses down in Midland. We'd fly in and
that's
pick
where
our
all
buses.
That's right. My dad went to Midland.
Yeah.
My mom went to.
And
Odessa,
I did because
Permian.
that was like our favorite spot. We'd get some barbecue and we'd get on the buses and we'd hit the road from there and go all over the country. But
Wow.
oh man, I genuinely joke. There are nights where we had no idea where we were stopping to sleep, and you'd wake up in the morning, and you're 5 feet from the Potomac River in Washington D.C.
Oh wow.
You are 100 feet from the Grand Canyon, and you are, but like just in the redwoods. That you sleep at night, but then in the mornings you wake up. This country's so amazing that I get so silly and cheesy about it. But touring, that's one of the greatest joys about getting to see how big this crazy country is and how beautiful it is, and then how Americans are all over this planet, how all over this country, and they all are hungry for music, and they all collect still around something as beautiful as music. So that's my silly trite answer, man. It's all same
okay.
nuts.
So you received your master's degree on the road through the American Tenors, and then how long?
Yeah.
How many years or seasons did you do that?
What was that until 20? I want to say I did that 3 or 4 years full time, and then the tenors kind of fell apart after the economic downturn. Yeah, that was happening. Our producers, he's an incredible man, Frank McNamara. It got too hard. He founded the Irish Tenors and some of the other subsequent groups. They came. Oh, to mention Paul Schaefer, he's kind of the Paul Schaefer of Ireland. But an incredible musician, Brahms scholar, but his life kind of needed to pivot elsewhere at that time, and that meant that the tenors really kind of took a hiatus. And Peter Gelb, Mr. Met, had just left Sony BMG, who held the American Tenors. Oh, okay. And now I'm getting to gossip, but I can talk about it all these years later. It was either make a sequel tenors record, or it was the duo record with Salvatore Licitra and Marcelo Alvarez. Mm-hmm. And he pulled the plug on that one instead of doing the sequel record. And then right after that, he went to the Met and found his glory there. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a wild career, man. And then since those days, it's been a little bit of everything. I've salt and peppered this career with, selling music, writing my own tunes, going on tour.
You've showed me a few videos as we enjoyed the hot tub in Pensacola of you performing with the likes of David Foster. I mean, how did that relationship come about?
Again, part of being out in LA, there was a time when TV was calling. There was a time when...
so back up a second. What made you move out to LA in the first place?
I had been heard by some big talent scholars in the business. There was, I think she's still in the game, but I'd mentioned her.
In the opera world?
You about her. No, in the TV game, Cindy Osprey.
The TV.
She was a casting and like a manager back in the day.
Okay.
And she had some pretty great artists, and I met up with her, had some great interactions, and there was just kind of this interaction and pushing my life to go be Gulley on camera, with some words instead of
as your camera just zoomed out.
Did you just see that? And I was like, oh right, I didn't even know. Yeah, that was
that's amazing.
That was its own magic. Yeah, that was. I'm giggling because looking back, it feels like a lifetime ago. That was 2012
Right.
through like 2015 were my LA years.
And so while you were out there, you got put in front of some people and you met David Foster?
Started singing at the W with some friends. There's an incredible artist, Brenna Whitaker, who was also in the studio with David Foster. Nights that I've told you about in the hot tub, but nights that cannot be told again. That just LA is its own trip. When I wrote my record, my solo record, the first track on that record is a track called Downtown. That song is not about what you think it is about. Those words mean so much more than what they take at face value.
Well, and
you have to know where you're going and hear your voice in that city, or else you will get swallowed alive by the.
I'm sure. And just for our listeners who may not know you, oftentimes I interview opera singers and we talk all about opera, and you're one of the few singers that, I mean, if you go to Spotify or Apple Music and you type in Ben Gulley, you can see some of your own, anyone can listen to your own compositions, which are a vast array of different genres of music, right? I mean,
yeah, the record we chose to call it In Between because it really is in between. With it not being pretentious classic opera singer, but to use the word, it's not passive music, and that is not where pop music is right now, as I found out the hard way.
Right.
Pop music is very passive right now, and it's like my record, no matter what it was, it had something like theatrical about it that you kind of have to stop and go like a dog and give your attention to it.
Well, I remember when I was listening to just a little bit of the stuff that you were showing to me, introducing me to down in Pensacola, I just remember my first thought was like, it's too good. Like, you sound too good. You sound too good. Like, it's so interesting how when producers put together the tracks with the vocals, with everything, and then they create that sound. I mean, you're using the word passive, but
that was Oliver Strauss at Mission Sound in Brooklyn. He was really incredible. He's kind of the sweetener, like the vocal sweetener. He found Sam Smith's vocal.
Oh, right.
A bunch of artists. And then he was great because he let me get to know. And then I worked with another master who's since retired, Robert Rebeck, which any Strange Music or any Tech Nine fans out there immediately know Rob Rebeck because Rob was the producer on the first 4 Tech Nine records. And some of Tech's biggest hits, Rob was the mixer and producer on.
I'm guilty for only knowing of the Red
King. That's another. Well, that's another Kangaroo. That's another Kansas City connection. My boy Isaac Cates, which we graduated together, and love. He's a huge artist in the gospel community, international music community for that matter. But another Kangaroo another Kansas City boy that never accepted that you only have to be one thing in this career. That music is calling. That music pulls us in many different paths. That's my cheesy way of saying that.
So transitioning to how we met, singing in an opera together. When did you sort of decide to go, okay, not so much of this or this, but I'm going to focus here?
So about 8 years ago, that's a good time in my life, but that's a good pivot. I set out to commit myself to this career, to opera, to this classical music career, because now I sound like the pretentious opera singer, but if you're gonna
because that's what we all are, right?
Well, for real, like when you love something this much, you have to become more. You're absorbed by it. There's this.
Well, it does seem to be somewhat of a club, and for those who
call it high art for a reason, bro. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, what's so funny to me is that, like, if anyone from the audience that assumed that. Well, and they all do, right? Like, oh, you're an opera singer. You must take care of your voice, and it's like to find out.
You must sleep in cravats and must wear velvet sweaters all day, and only drink Evian water. Yeah, no, I giggle at that because that was a stereotype for a long time.
Sure.
With those old cats with the little vocal spray bottles.
Oh yeah, of course.
Little misters. Think about Delmonico looking absolutely insane because he was.
Oh my
He
God!
was.
If anyone has not seen the Mario de Monaco movie of him walking around his house and throwing stuff in, I think we've made
Bro,
mention
we
of it
just
before.
did
But
Pagliacci. Him doing vest. Look it up now, youngins. Anybody, even
the
not any
best
old anybody.
Canio I think ever. I mean,
Him
unbelievable.
singing, lip syncing to him doing Vesti la Giubba in his basement with this documentary, being like, "What is happening right now?" Is one of the
So good.
greatest.
It's so good.
But talk about an ego getting so big, but that passion was real.
Oh yeah.
That passion was not fake. That he would love that craft. He loves this craft so much, and that's what I feel like you and I. That's the chalice you and I also want to sip from too. Like that's how
Well, of course. I
incredible
mean,
this art form is.
I think how do you bring things that can sometimes, well, I mean, look, we are interpreters of music, right? I mean, in the operatic world, we are interpreting sometimes pieces that are 50, 70, 80, 100, whatever years old, and it's our opportunity to take them by the reins and put our own artistic interpretation to it. But it's like, how do you bring this to life in your own unique way? And it can't be done in a passive way. It has to be done with passion. It has to be done with, a sense of self, but of such a greater spectrum.
Bro, I heard you be asked by some young artists recently about like what's the wise thing to do, and I think you said it so beautifully because
Oh God, what did I say?
one, I was gonna say it next if you had. I'm kidding. No, it was so beautiful what you said to them was about know who you are and know how to express what you feel comfortable expressing about yourself to an audience because we're all singing the same standard repertoire. We're all singing the same arias.
Yeah.
So how do you say it a little differently than the other artists next to you?
I think
And there's no right or wrong. And I think
that's a phrase that I heard so many times growing up. It's like, well, what is your story? Tell your story. And I'll be honest. And for a long time, I didn't really know what that meant. And I thought, well, I'm singing these words that were written by this librettist and set to music by this composer. No, what part of me is in that? Well, that's the whole challenge, right?
Bro,
You gotta find
I
it.
think you and I have talked about this. When a room smells, and I'm saying this, a rehearsal room, a theater, practice room, Zoom call, anything. When something smells like someone doesn't know why they're doing something, it's real smelly. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And that's what I say to young people, that you can't know until you know thyself. Like, because if somebody's there and they don't know why they're there, we're all like, we all need to know why we're here. We need to know why I'm doing this. I need to know why I'm saying this. I need to know why you think I'm saying it that way, because sometimes you may not agree with your director or your music director or your maestro or your colleagues. And you gotta try to understand each other. You can't just be this.
Of course.
That doesn't solve anything. We're so often told just stand your ground and fight for what you. Yes, but also understand why. If the other person doesn't know why they're doing it, then now we're being really philosophical, bro. But it's already us. That breeds beautiful opportunity in one another to let that other human and yourself go, aha, I understand why you think that or where you're coming from. And now maybe you're going to go, aha, you get where I'm coming from or why we're doing it. Or you're answering that question now. Like, is that not the best moment in rehearsal? The best moment at coffee, the best moment in life is being like, oh, I get you. And that's what I feel like opera's at its best, honestly.
We've got our first question.
Yeah.
Micah Perry says, how important do you think life experiences outside of the opera career are to creating better art? It's so easy as a young artist to only focus on opera. That's first of all, Micah Perry was our brilliant Beppe.
What a stud.
What a phenomenal young singer.
That name and that gorgeous smiling face.
Yeah, you're not going to want to forget that name. He's a wonderful performer.
Micah, that's a great question. That's why you and I giggle and smile, because I was always going to ask you about what you love to do when you're not doing opera. Like, Weston and I talk about that. You and I batted meatballs immediately on like, oh, what do you love to do when you're not doing this job? Like, This is a passion and an art form and a career, but also this is what this show's about, man. Like, Micah, like, do pickleball, all these fun things I learned about you. Don't ever stop fueling those things, and
I think that question is an answer within itself, right? How important are life experiences outside of the opera career? That is what makes us who we are. right? I mean, sure, don't get me wrong. You learn a lot in a rehearsal room and you learn a lot from being on stage so that the next time you perform that role, you understand, oh, these are the traditions or this is the tempi that, whatever. But oh my God, the experiences that one has in life is what
Yeah.
creates, in my opinion, is what creates who you are as an artist.
But also, we can't ever forget. I'm saying this to myself too, and to all of us, and to you, Micah, and to you, Weston. All levels of the game. We have to have it with childlike, wildlike, like big old wide-eyed open. But we have to be grateful the whole time. We have to be happy warriors. You have to be grateful that sometimes. And I say that because you can't know what it's like to be these characters from the 1300s, 1200s, walking on cobblestone streets.
Sure.
Until you actually wear those shoes on cobblestone streets in Nuremberg. You know what I mean? And
Sure,
you're like, oh, I see why they couldn't see 3 feet in front of them back then, because that was pitch black on a moonless night in downtown Hamburg. You know what I mean?
To your point, I will say, if you're an American young singer and you have not traveled to Europe and seen these cities, and to be able to
it's
to
huge
your point,
to the career.
It's like these aha moments to then become immediately integrated in your world, to see the locations of what, to see the, what is the bridge? Oh my God. Of course.
How many of our operas are done in the Duomo in Rome?
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
And then
Ponte
you go
Vecchio,
to
that's what I was going to say. The Ponte Vecchio that Loretta sings
yes.
about in Johnny Schicchi. It's like, if you've never seen that and been there and been like, oh my God. Or
But I'm hearing us right now. I'm also hearing myself and being like, but not everybody has the ability or the affluence but I push back because I'm a little farm boy from Blue Springs, Missouri, Tyna, Missouri, who has done those things. And yes, I worked very hard, and I have also been a beautiful combination of lucky. But I challenge everybody that if you want to go do it, go see it. Go climb that mountain. Go visit that.
Yeah, go see the Castle San Angelo in Rome.
Yeah,
go see what,
I may be one of the most pretentious tenors ever about Aida, because I've now actually sung next to the Sphinx and walked the steps of the temple.
Oh, wow.
And know where we're going to sing Immenso Pata to. I can now kind of cross my arms and be like, I understand. I've now been there.
Let's say this. It's not to say that you can't be effective as an artist on stage having not done those things.
Oh, for sure.
But getting back to Micah's question, which I think is maybe one of the best questions I've ever had on this show.
So good.
It's so important to understand how those outside life experiences, and whether they're relationships, whether they're geographic visits, whatever it is, it all builds to who you are as a person, which is who you are as an artist, which is what people see when you step into an audition or on the stage.
And as someone who gets obsessive on new stuff or passions, it's totally good to let your brain go elsewhere and not be worried about learning all of the ring cycle now. You don't need to chill out, bro. You don't need to go there yet. You know what I mean? You don't have to know it all. You don't need to speak every language fluently yet. That's a goal.
Sure.
That's a real goal we should all have. But yeah, go to that barbecue. Go watch those funny movies. Go write your comic book. Go skateboarding.
Let's do another little pivot. So from now, looking backwards, what are some of the 2 or 3, I don't know, moments that you've been like, that was a mistake? Why did I think that would be a good idea?
Ooh, good one. Crack the whiskey.
Sorry, I don't have any.
No, that's that's a bubbles. That's a pour it over ice moment. Sound effects. Okay, shoulda, woulda, couldas. This is great because they're free and you can say a million of them because they won't change a thing now. In hindsight, this is really airing some tea. I took advice of a very close individual at the time to do commercial music when I had an opportunity to go be a fest artist in Europe.
Okay.
And I did that. I did the commercial music. Which in my hindsight, I don't mean to poo-poo on, and I'm not poo-pooing on my friends that do cruise ships either, but it was the equivalent of me going and doing a cruise ship for 3 years, 4 years. Because I was still practicing.
That's not to say that experience in your life hasn't shaped and molded and been a part of who you are today.
I have an ability, I have a confidence that you sense to my friend that beyond the ego, it's also, I have a confidence of like, when you do 220 plus performances a year and you don't cancel one,
right?
You have an ability to be like, sit down, babies. Oh, you're tired today? Like, you're a little swollen, you're a little cold. You're like, I mean, that sounds crude, but like you kind of put on this, like, my mom has a sign, Cindy Gulley, shout out, put on your big girl or britches and deal with it. Like it's, and it was always like, oh yeah, you learn you learn what you're made of. You're metal, MEDDLE, yeah.
Right. I think that you know, in the opera world, a pretty
TTL,
busy.
I said metal, metal, we had to spell. Good job.
I think that in the opera world, a pretty busy schedule is maybe 60 plus performances in a season, right? And so to do 220, it's like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Oh, I just finished my taxes, and I'm grateful. I'm very grateful, but it's one of those just like,
right.
Even looking for the next 6 weeks is kind of a giggle fest right now. I was just
because of
my schedule the next 6 weeks, bro. I'm grateful, not complaining, but complaining. You get it, like
right. How do you get a singer to complain? Give them a job, right?
So true. It's so true. It's so true. I'm so beyond grateful to have busy 6 weeks, but it is one of those like, take a breath. You're gonna be great. This is gonna be good.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty public. I mean, I've talked about it before in the press and such. But one of the wake up moments in my life was when I was also offered a fest. But of course, I was offered the fest with the understanding, as long as I had a prosthesis, then I would get the job. But because I didn't have the prosthesis, I missed out on the gig. So, you know, whether you're pursuing commercial music or trying to find an extra hand, you know, whatever, it's all good.
Yep.
But yeah, those types of life lessons will certainly pay off in the future as you figure out what it is that you do want to do and what it is that you don't want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think another one of those was not going to New York for the Juilliard Opera Center, which is would have been another unifier of us, but not going and having done that as should have done that when I could have done that.
And what did you do instead?
Commercial music.
Oh, you stayed within that.
Yeah, I kind of stayed doing it. Yeah, it was. And then for a third one, a whoopsie moment.
Have you ever? I mean, you know, of course, now you're singing roles like Canio, and I know you got Verdi Requiem coming up. Still keeping in the Carmina Buranas, but like so obviously that's some pretty heavy. Borderline
and
dramatic.
Don Jose and more Verdi Requiem. So yeah, that's the next 6 weeks, everybody. That's literally my. I'll see you the third week in May. And
right, but so in that realm, I mean, have you always sung that type of repertoire, or did somebody try to push you in a different? I mean, I have no idea what your journey was.
You're gonna giggle. So as my new teach, even everybody, this is not only my dear beloved friend, he's also my new teacher. Which one lesson. Already feel like I'm Pavarotti 2.0.
You too.
But okay. No, I was given keys to the library by our beloved Dale Morehouse, is what I like to say. Dale let me be
what
Sam.
A better person. I don't know if there is a better person that could do that. I mean,
and
his
Dale
knowledge
pointed
of
me to
repertoire.
shelves and like levels of the library that I was like, I think so. What are these? Dale, what's this music? What's this 1960s pop obscure cabaret? What's this 1980s AIDS quilt book, songbook, amazing literature? Dale was so incredible at doing that. And I'll never forget, there was this, dude, you and I need to do them. There are these, he's going to punch me in the face right now. Dale, I love you if you're listening to this. What was their name? They had operatic careers, but they were the number one selling duo of all time. It was a baritone tenor, and they had these sacred duos. If anybody's online that knows these, shout it out.
I don't know.
Dale will know. They were incredible. Anyway, but he showed me these arrangements that were like, you had to really sing. You couldn't just be like, La Amazing Grace. You had to really be able to sing through, and they were so epic. Anyway, yeah, it was Dale gave me the library, as I joked, the keys to the library, and I just went and sponged it all up. Just and then have my own way that I've always kind of like taking it, chewing on it, and then letting it affect me and seeing what that inspires me in my
Well, but
storytelling
to
and
the
my
point of
songs.
like, oops, pitfalls, mistakes. Did you ever take a wrong turn in that repertoire choice, or has it always sort of been
Absolutely, absolutely, and you don't know why you're doing it because so much of this career, when you're, so I'm 40 and still feeling like I'm making it in this opera career because I am. That's
Sure.
that's the beautiful joy, but that's also the curse of being a perfectionist too. You know what I mean? You gotta,
right, right?
as my wonderful agent recently said, you have to be willing to stop and read your bio and be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh cool, oh yeah. But no, I think looking back, I took some work because not only I wanted to, maybe it's illusions of grandeur because you're told you're young and can kind of do everything. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So yeah, there was definitely some early flexes, but now at 40, I kind of feel a little. I want to be wise because I now have enough underneath my belt and enough of those whoopsies to know better now.
Well, and getting back to the young artists, I mean, we are told in this country, coming through American, young artist training programs, you got to have your French, your German, your Italian. What's your handle? It's you're kind of expected to be all things to all people, especially
Mozart was always poison to me. I'm controversial for saying that. I've done four Taminos. I like it, but it's there's so much other there's like you said, there's these academic roots of like, okay, we've got our pieces of paper. We're
Right.
gonna write in our two oratorio. Ooh, what can you do as a quartet in a concert? Which is
Right.
great. I'm not mocking it, but it's also like I've got that packet too, and have I really used it?
Well, I think that when you pop out on the other side, the most interesting question that producers want to know is like, well, what do you do? What's your niche?
Yes.
What's your niche? What are you known for? And so I
Yeah.
think along that journey, hopefully we figure those things out.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, bro. Yeah, I feel where you're steering me to into that. Yeah, I identify completely with that. It's both a blessing and a curse to be able to see it also as one big fabric.
Right?
Um, but then I also know that sometimes I need to stay in the lines. That as an artist, we need to not be squirrel. It's just
Yeah.
stay going. Yeah, there's definitely that's something I'm learning too. Maybe that's a good. Let's say that as my big whoopsies that I think even Micah's question also points towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything in moderation, and I'm saying that's an echo back to earlier Ben that wasn't necessarily living so moderately.
Well, easy to do when
Yeah.
you're young and full of energy and. Uh,
Yep.
all right. So moving forward to the last act, it's great. We've already been on for 45 minutes. Believe it
I
or
love it,
not,
bro.
right?
Yeah, right.
Time flies.
Yep.
I would love to hear from you where you would like to hear or where you think that opera needs to go, right? We're sort of in this
Oh,
2025 where we see in let's say this, the majority of companies are producing fewer shows and they're producing fewer performances of those shows in a given season. But like, so it's not, I don't tend to see too many opera companies like closing their doors and leaving that we have seen in the past. But people are certainly tightening their belts, But so, what do we do? How do we move forward in your mind? Because I think you've got some ideas, yeah.
I think we have to honor where we've come from. I'm saying that to kind of to attach ourselves to this incredible history that we have behind us of tradition and what we've already accomplished.
Yeah.
But we surmounted the mountain of being high art for the sake of we didn't know we were doing it. We were asking everyone to be at their most excellent of all the crafts. And we kind of climbed that mountain, and then we just tried to been staying there. We tried
Sure.
to stay. It's not, I don't think that's achievable or necessarily economically viable. Like, besides the main houses, let them do what they do. But I think I think what it's trying to do, I think it's trying to tell new stories. I think it's trying to shorten itself for our attention spans. I think It does this in beautiful cycles. Since you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, bro, I've chewed on it even more. The pendulum definitely swings. If that's not a saying that all of us learned in music history all over the world.
Sure.
We just see these trends, and I think even in pop music right now, we're seeing the age of the virtuoso and the band come back. I think we're going to see music education come back in the public ecosphere. And with that, I think we're going to have a reintroduction, maybe a fusion of the art forms. This is why I get giddy and smiley, because I think just as Mozart putting a trombone in for the first time and having people go, oh, what is that? What was that? Twisted legato connected. Oh, what? Oh. I hope there was a woman like that. Can you imagine if nobody even recognized it unless anybody said it? Did you guys know that? Did you know? Did you even know that he had the womp womp? No, none of you? No? Okay. No, I joke. I think if we invited some of our rock composer friends into the operatic arena, I think if we were willing to let the art form bleed a little bit into our friends on Broadway, I think maybe if we invited some friends in, and had them sing along with us, and maybe I think if we went like this to each other instead of like,
yeah, right.
Come to me as the opera says. Oh, look at that! Even yes, dramatic zoom in. Don't know why or how, but it did. No, I think if we behave that way, then that's what we're going to command. That's what we're going to respect. But nobody really wants to come to this aloof. Oh, I have studied for 17 years in Vienna. I speak 4 accents worth of blah, 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 blah. Like, no one really cares, because unless that comes out in your singing, does it? Maybe. But I'm not buying a record of that. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think opera has new stories. I think there's great ideas. I think we need to outreach to bigger markets, to bigger things. I think there's a SpongeBob children's opera. I think there's licensing issues with that, but I think we could get into there. I think there's a South Park version of Così fan tutte. I think there's a Avengers licensed version of the Ring Cycle that would be beyond their most incredible imagination.
Wow.
I think there's new instrumentation that needs to be... We need to go through the fire, just like Tamino going through his final fire. We need to have maybe some amplified guitar and maybe drum set in the pit of the Met.
I love it.
We need to maybe have new instrumentation. Maybe there's a synth or a pad. Maybe the singers are mic'd, but they're still singing with beautiful virtuosic technique. Maybe we become something new. I like to joke the butterfly doesn't necessarily know. The caterpillar doesn't know it's going to become a butterfly. So maybe right now opera doesn't know it's going to become something. But I mean, Will Liverman's out there slapping the people. Like there is new, but there's new voicings, there's new instrumentation, there's more of us to invite into the art form. That's what
absolutely. I would say. Well, what a better way to close. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on here with me, and how fun this was.
Love you, brother.
We could easily do another 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, I miss you. I miss you.
I know, man. Well, thank you for all that tuned in, and I'll be sure to make sure that this gets archived over on YouTube, youtube.com/Weston Hurt. And thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Anytime. Right. Under the hood.
Now I got to figure out how to stop the live stream. Let's see. Maybe we just end the thing.
Content of this meeting.
Stop live stream. Here we go. All right.
Oh.
Thanks so much, everybody.